Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is November 25th, and this is another of our bi-weekly SIG Apps call. My name is Maciej, and I'll be your host. Quick announcement, Cube 132 is on schedule so far, so I believe that December 11th or 12th. I was just checking the date a minute ago, but we can quickly look at the SIG release link that I linked here. Yes, December 11th is the planned release, and everything seems to be on schedule. If you will get pinged by any of the folks from the SIG release, please make sure to respond to them promptly. Moving on to the main discussion topics, we have Michał to present KJob CTO, and afterwards we'll have a discussion about transferring that project to a dedicated SIG repo. Take it away from here, Michał. I believe I don't need to give you host privileges because I recently learned that you don't need to be a host to actually share your screen, but let's try and we'll see.
Okay, thank you for that. But when I try to click share screen, I get disabled share. Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Interesting. Okay, I made you a co-host. Now you should be able to do so.
Okay, now I can.
Yep.
All right. So just yes, what is KJob CTL? I prepared like a very small, fast presentation, and so basically, what is the motivation of the project? So this is a project started like half a year ago, in June or July this year, and basically the main idea is to easily create jobs and be compatible for like list and manage jobs, and also be compatible with queue, but also be compatible without queue. So we want to support both modes. Another motivation is that we want to make like Slurm-like experience, so that users who are like very often AI researchers, they don't need to know the YAMLs, so we want to hide this layer of abstraction. This is, of course, not always possible, but as much as possible. And we also want to let the users from the background of Slurm or HPC to be able to transfer their scripts into Kubernetes without running like Slurm on Kubernetes deployments, but basically run the same scripts. So these are like the main ideas. It or use cases. It's in some aspects it does more. In some aspects it's not yet fully working. So this is what the status. As I said, it was proposed in June on batch working group. Currently, is being developed in Q under the experimental project, but this was mostly done so that we can develop quickly, develop MVP, and see if the community likes it or not, without committing to a separate repo at that time. So what is the and as far as I remember correctly, we discussed that we will reconsider when we have MVP. The MVP, I don't think it was like formally declared any time, but some aspects of what was discussed is already implemented. So we have like the job mode, Slurm mode, RAID job, and recluster modes implemented. For reference, this is where the project is currently being developed. So as I was mentioning, under Q, we have some documentation and consamples that let you get started. Okay, before I move to the next steps, I would like to show basically a short demo. so that we get a grasp of what is this. And maybe yet before I jump into the demo, let me basically show you the references, like the folder for Q we have here. And here we have some documentation, which is starting. So we have installation. So basically, for now, as this is like embedded inside Q, a user needs to compile it like that. And then you can, this is like some basic steps how to configure it in your bash. But once this is done, this, for example, gives you the grasp of how to, which I'm going to present, basically, but it gives you the grasp of how, for example, the Slurm mode is done. So as I was mentioning, very often the case is that we want to be able to create a job, tune some parameters, and run it again without copy pasting, then mutating the YAMLs for the job. So I will show you that. And basically, to run Slurm, like Slurm supports a lot of parameters, which we do also support, and Slurm supports Bash environment variables that are accessible from the scripts. So I believe we support most of them, which I will also show how this works. And this is basically the example script. So we create the template and we have the concept of the application profile. Because the way it works, the behavior of the Slurm mode is different than Ray job, etc. So we abstract it out with the application profile concept. And we, let's say, have some sample code in Python. This could be, of course, more complex, like machine learning code or whatever. We export this code in this example to the, and it could be parameterized, let's say, by environment variables. We have some volume bundle where we ship the code. And similarly as in Slurm, we have the idea of the like directives that control the number of pods, etc., and basically run the code. And this is how you, this is the example command. So let me show you how this works. So I have put all the most important things into the complete YAML. So here I define the application profile, the job template, the volume bundle with the code. So what I need to do now is create the template is just a template. Let me create the complete. Okay, this is already created by me like earlier when I was preparing. So this is how I can, this already exists. So we are probably in good position to just create the Slurm job. So this is basically the command which specifies the wrapper script. This can be supplied by the user, and this is like where it's like most convenient for the user to set some parameterization to the actual script. So for example, I can have my var, this can be whatever, and these are Slurm-like directive I was mentioning before. So if I now run this, Okay, a couple of things is created, but most importantly, we have a new batch job. So let's look, we have it. And look, let's get the pods. And with this directives that I read, there's like Slurm syntax that we support. We basically say that we want 5 Slurm tasks to execute, but 2 at the same time. So this is basically logging of the individual pod. So as you can see, we have all the logs, including the variable name. This is one of the environment variables, like that is in the Slurm. So we also set it. So basically, this environment variables tells you what are the nodes that on which the job is running in Slurm. So we basically mimic the same environment variables, but in Kubernetes. So we represent the nodes by pods. And by passing the variable, we can basically, I don't think this has been tested like on real production scripts, so there could be some issues, I don't know. But maybe it was already. It's certainly planned on our side to adopt it more. But the idea is like this. So we have the nodes and we will mimic all the variables. Here I only listed 3 variables from the code of sample code. So that's why only those are printed. But in principle, any that is any is available. So let me see pods. Okay, all of them are completed and each of them logged its own um, yeah, task ID. And each of them knows the same set of nodes. And then I can easily create another, let's say, job, or I can, as I was mentioning, just edit the sample and change something and create again. So this is basically the experience that we were mentioning. So I was able to, let's say, modify the parameter, run the job again without touching the YAMLs. Of course, and this is like, say, the experience that the user, the AI researcher gets. Prior to that, as I was showing, the application profile needs to be set up, but this is up to the administrator. And this happens before, but once all of this is done, then we can basically, yeah, so this is the with 1300, and probably here we have, okay, this is as well, but probably here we get the 1000, yes, after the change. So this is it. There's a couple of more modes, but basically I think this is the most complex, and others are less interesting at this moment. And we also have more commands. So let me see what we have. So we have a bunch of parameters which are kind of technical, how to connect to the server, how to pass the token, user. There is some username to impersonate. So a bunch of kind of technical, how to talk to the server. And these are like the most useful commands. So for example, I can have list the Slurm tasks, and I have already run 3 of them. yeah, so I think that's it. Unless we want to, and I think I at this moment I would like to maybe have some discussion, because the last slide is that we were developing the KJob CTL over last half year or so in Q, but um, we need to make some decisions. The decision is how do we release it. So currently we have to compile it, and also the documentation is all under experimental. It's not part of the official documentation for Q. Yeah, and we would like to also publish some dedicated images because, for example, the setting of the environment variables I was showing to you, like the node list. This happens in the init containers. And so if I get the job, this happens on some, let's say, suboptimal image. And we would like to have a dedicated image, but we don't want to publish it while this doesn't have its own repo yet. So this is basically the job. I think, oh, so we have the init container. So we use init containers with some init entry point script and then an entry point script to set up all the machinery for the Slurm mode. And we use for that the busybox image, which is not optimal. And yeah, and the proposal that we discussed a while back, I'm not sure if now is the time to do this, but the proposal is to move it to dedicated SIG project so that we can unblock, let's say, the releases for the project and have its like its own documentation, its own image, etc. That relates to that. So I think that's all that I have to show. I would be happy to try to answer some comments, questions.
Does anyone have any questions for me, Ho? Okay, while folks are thinking, there was one question that didn't get answered in that particular issue that you linked. I remember asking about coupling with Q and so forth, and you've managed to answer that it's not tightly coupled. And one of the reasons that you want to ensure it doesn't get tightly coupled is the separation. But the most important one and the only one that is left out is you mentioned an MVP around the functionality for KJob CTL. How far you are with the MVP? What is left there still to be done?
That's a good idea and a good question. So the first one, just to quickly reiterate, because I didn't put that explicitly. So we have a couple of commands here. And actually what I was showing didn't use Q at all. But if someone wants to use Q, then there is a special parameter called yes, local queue. So this local queue comes from the concept of queue, and if you set while creating the, let's say, the Slurm job, it's not shown in this example, but if you add the local queue, then the job will have the queue, and as a result, it will be queued. So we are the currently the dependency is very lightweight, so we use it a lot for tests because we want to make sure that it's compatible with Q, but that we only depend on, let's say, one concept of Q as such, so it doesn't like really much to make too much sense to couple it with Q. Now regarding the MVP, let me see. We have the old presentation. Maybe we have Martin on the call. I don't know. We
Yes, we
do.
do have Martin on the call. No, this is maybe not the best slides. Okay, so what is the MVP? I think that we are very, very close to MVP. So the Slurm experience is kind of completed. It works. We are able to start jobs, list jobs, delete jobs, and all of that things is there. So from the MVP perspective, I would say that apart from couple polishing touches, we we basically have MVP, and that's why it's the final and well critical time to move it to the desired repository and give kjob enough free space and spotlight so that it stop being like experimental project hidden in some other repo, but it is more pronounced and people can start using it with more cause. Michał, you are still sharing your screen, by the way.
Yes, I'm clicking through the previous slides to see maybe the MVP is
Yeah, yeah.
defined
So these are
somewhere,
the
but
slides that from the presentation that we had on batch working group about half a year ago that introduced the tool, that gave the brief introduction to what is like, what problem is trying to solve. And yeah, during the time from June-ish, maybe May 2024 to now, we completed most of the things. Of course, there is still a lot of things to be done later, to be pushed forward. But at this moment, I'm relatively confident that this is uh, good enough to give users for first run. And that's why we are addressing you, our bell of SIG Apps, to hopefully sponsor the repo and allow us to move this part of the code to some decent place.
Philip, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, first, sorry, I don't know much about this project. I would like to ask, I saw that this project is introducing a couple of CRDs. What is the proposition like, or the value of these CRDs?
Okay, so there are two CRDs there, and the main proposition behind this is, as Michał says, make the life of uh, researchers easy. So researchers don't like YAMLs, they are not super familiar with all of the Kubernetes concepts, but they are still there. They have very, very good knowledge about ML, but not necessarily such great knowledge about Kubernetes. So we would like to put the CRDs on the server side because these are basically, as Michał is showing, templates of the jobs. So administrators, system administrators who do have actual knowledge about Kubernetes can feel most of the things in the repository, in particular, where it should run, what volumes should it be using, what are the images, and so on. And then researchers are filling the gaps in the side of these templates and provide job specific things like what are the parameters, maybe what is the command line, maybe what scripts to use, but the system side parameters are there set for the users. So the value of the CRD proposal is to bridge word between Kubernetes, system administrators, and people who don't know Kubernetes but are great at ML. Philip, does it answer your question?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay, thanks.
I have a different one with my 6CLI hat on. You currently implement create, describe, list, and delete command. Since recently we allow creating just create plugins for kubectl.
Mm-hmm.
What is specific about describe, list, and delete commands for kjob that we cannot do, or what will be the results if we use a native kubectl describe or list, or well, delete should work, but
Sure. So
list.
create doesn't take YAML. Create takes profile, which is on the server side. So you cannot use kubectl create -f and provided YAML because YAML is not on the user desktop. It is on the server side and is significantly different from the experience there. Then create combines not one CRD, but actually two CRDs, which is application profile and volume bundle, which describes all of the volumes that should be mounted inside the system in such a way that we can have multiple profiles and just one bundle that is shared across them. So the extra logic there is quite complex. We could come up with a different verb, like instead of
I'm
create.
so hold on. So create has an option to add additional. So normally kubectl only allows you to create top level plugins. Create is a little bit special since recently because create allows you to create sub commands. So you can add your own, in your case, kubectl create slurm. You would
Mhm.
basically just register slurm as a sub command for create. And create
Okay.
has a bunch of subcommands which allow you to simplify the creation. It's not just a create-f. I'm more asking specifically about describe, list, and delete because I see the value of the create. I want to see the difference between the built-in describe, list, and delete versus the one provided by kjob.
So probably it would be like the brevity. So especially with Slurm, we create a lot of mess
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes so that this thing works. So extra scripts for create their environment variables, extra thing for config maps, and so on and so on. So in order to provide abbreviated and easy to read version of the job for the user, it's better to have like a specific commander. Would describe work? Yes. Can you do it? Absolutely. But uh, having a specific command allows us to combine extra things into it so that the description doesn't have all of the hacky things exposed directly to the user and is shorter and hopefully easier to read for the target audience, which are researchers which do not understand Kubernetes fully.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? Janet? Okay, hearing none. I believe there are no objections like I wrote in the issue with regards to SIG Apps sponsoring that particular repository creation. I believe it'll be called kjob CTL or just kjob. I don't know.
Probably would like to keep it as K job.
Okay.
So if you don't mind that's the name of the repository that we would intend to create. Uh, Now the question is, what are the next steps? Should we reach out to, I don't know, CNCF? Are you in charge of creating repository? What does the
Um,
process look like?
okay. So the general process is you will open an issue against the Kubernetes org repository, if I remember correctly. And when opening a new issue, hold on, let me double check, but I believe that's the correct one. And when opening an issue against a Kubernetes org repository, there is an option about repository creation migration, uh, which then you will be able to fill in all the appropriate requirements for any new repository. I believe when we created the Q repository, there should be a traced.
There
Yeah,
is one issue that I traced that is like for was created for job set, right? So
there is
analogous
one
to
for
this.
job set. There's one for Q, which is, if you can open it up, it's 3263, or just the job set repo in a similar fashion. 3263 was for Q. So basically, you will fill in all the owners, what the SIG and sub project does this fall under. In this case, it'll be SIG apps, and all the requirement information. I'm still wondering about the name, because theoretically, you currently still keep it as if it's standalone. It's kjob CTL, and I believe you will keep that name as well. Kjob is only when it's part of the kubectl, or maybe not.
Yes, probably.
I mean, I would probably say if you want to keep it as a kjob as a kubectl plugin, then you could consider calling it kubectl dash kjob. Or if you want to keep the standalone name as a full one, kjob CTL, I would use that one.
So
I
what are
honestly
the
don't know what the binary is. I believe it's kjob CTL as the main one.
so
Okay.
what is
Is it a
your
strong preference or just your idea?
Just as suggestions, it's not a strong preference.
Okay, so we would probably have like a 2 hour long discussion internally to come up with the idea, and if you are okay with both, then well, we'll pick one of the options. If
Yeah,
it,
either of the two is probably fine.
and kjob
Um,
alone is okay or not really.
I would probably leave that one as the last possible option.
But if it wins the survey, you are willing to accept it.
But yeah, I'm willing to
Okay,
accept that
okay,
one as well.
okay. Probably it's not worth to discuss it right now. We'll try to grab the voice of all people involved, and we'll let you know for
Yeah,
what
just
the
ping me
outcome is.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
ping me
absolutely.
before issue creation, and then we can figure out about that particular bit. But in general, I think, yeah, that order where the first is probably the preferred one, the third one, I can be I can be okay with it if the first one won't be able to go through.
I have a
Uh,
related question. Do we have any previous examples of kubectl plugins that are Kubernetes 6 projects so that we can be consistent with them?
The only plugin that we have is Crew as the plugin manager, and then probably
with
the
K.
only one is the sample plugin. Oh no, actually we have the kubectl validate. Though I believe, yeah, that was added quite some time ago. kubectl validate exists
Oh,
under
but
Kubernetes.
crew like this is on its own without kubectl prefix
Yeah,
or
but
anything.
Crew is a plugin manager, so Crew was accepted as this. But the rest specific kubectl plugins, there exists one, and it's called kubectl-validate. Just validate, no validation, validate. And that's a workaround being able to validate Kubernetes resources off of the open API that is published as part of the CRDs.
So since we have one that is like precedence, maybe it makes sense to be consistent.
Yeah.
That will be my preference, yes.
Okay. Do we have any other outstanding items for this particular topic? Any questions, concerns, suggestions whatsoever?
I believe we're all set up for this particular topic, and there are no additional topics for today. So I guess we can call it a day, and I'm gonna give back everyone about 20 minutes of your time today. Cool. Thank you very much all, and see you next time in 2 weeks. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.
See you.